Throughout history, women in China have faced oppression in many ways, such as being forced into traditional gender roles, foot binding, and many more. This long history in gender inequality can be attributed to Confucian beliefs in which women are expected to be either wives, prostitutes, or concubines. Although many of these beliefs and traditions are no longer in practice today, female oppression appears in other ways, such as through wage and education inequalities as a result of living in a patriarchal system. In today's interview, we will speak with Christian, Pan, and Gabriel to better understand China's gender inequalities.
In China. Throughout history, women in China were expected to be subservient to men. Their options were limited and typically were only able to be wives, concubines, or prostitutes. The Confucian teachings emphasized the importance of gender roles in society, in which men were expected to provide for their families while women were expected to submit to their husbands. Concubines and prostitutes were often taken advantage of as they garnered inherent disrespect from men for partaking in sexual activities outside of marriage. There was also a severe lack of regulation when it came to prostitution, and women were often treated more like slaves for the pleasure of men. As you can see, women throughout history in China had no upward mobility in society and were very restricted in their options.
Thank you, Christian. I will now explain China's abolished foot binding practices and most recently abolished one-child policy. Foot binding was a physical manifestation of women's subservience to men. It was a horrible practice that involved breaking the feet to fit a small shoe. This created a foot shape for women that men considered attractive and increased their chances of finding a husband. However, this left the women in constant pain and made it difficult for them to walk. This practice is now outlawed, but serves as a prime example of how women were oppressed throughout China's history. Another example of female inequality in China can be seen through the one-child policy. This policy made it illegal to have more than one child to prevent overpopulation. However, this policy caused many problems for China. Due to China's patriarchal system, families have a preference for sons. Sons were expected to provide financial support, inherit estates, and pass on the family bloodline. This preference for male children, combined with the one-child policy, caused parents to abort and kill female newborns. The one-child policy caused many problems for China and further highlights China's gender inequality.
Thank you, Pan. I will now explain how women face inequality in China today. Women still face oppression in the workplace, which can be seen by a lack of women in leadership roles, gender wage gaps, and expectation to fill traditional female roles rather than focusing on their own careers. Because men are expected to provide for their families, they are paid and hired at higher rates compared to women. Independent women are more frowned upon based on traditional Chinese values and are discouraged from starting careers in tech, finance, and other fields typically associated with men. Furthermore, because of these typical gender norms in China, men usually have access to better education as well. Chinese parents will push their male children to do better in school to achieve higher paying jobs, while women do not have the same level of encouragement and support as the men do. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. Whether it was through the effects of Confucian teachings, practices, and policies like foot binding and the one-child policy, or wage and education gaps, it's clear women in China have faced oppression in many ways. Although there have been improvements, it will take generations of unlearning some historical Chinese traditions and values for the equal treatment of women.